What's going on, everybody? It's Jamie,
And John?
and welcome to the A-to-Z Reseller podcast. How you doing this week, John? I see you got yourself a new haircut anyway.
Yeah, it's summertime, trying to keep myself a little bit cooler and also not looking like a scruffy dog. So sometimes what happens is I have every intent of keeping my hair short and stuff, but then you get busy and all of a sudden you wake up one day and you think, wow, I got a mullet and I need to do something
Yeah.
about it. So
Oh yeah. Well, my wife is a hairdresser slash barber, and I haven't had a haircut in like a month. My hair is just going everywhere. It's a mess, and I could book in with her at the spa, I suppose. I just, you know, I know what you're saying anyway. It's one of the least important things for me that I think about most of the time.
yeah,
So, it gets out of control, and you're like, oh, maybe I should do something about that.
I realized I was fitting in a little bit too well with my local slow pitch softball team. I figured I should do something about it.
Yeah, for sure. How's this week been going? Pretty good. Like sales wise, personal wise, been a good week.
Yeah, I mean, sales wise, everything's kind of moving along. I've had a couple of buyers that have taken some time to pay, but have eventually paid. Someone had some difficulty checking out. I don't know what the issue was, but it seemed like it was an eBay glitch that was kind of going on where they couldn't check out. But a couple days later, they were able to. As far as sales numbers and stuff go, I mean, I think we're pretty much right on track. It's not been a real busy week, but it's just kind of going along. And yeah, as far as personally goes, I mentioned softball. I am still kind of fighting a little bit of a quad injury here, so I'm trying to take it easy. But other than that, can't complain.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I know that payment thing is annoying. I had that last month a couple times where somebody had said they had updated their card information on eBay and it wouldn't let them process it. And it took a bit. Sometimes when that happens, right, you're kind of like, is this person just like not going to pay? And they're like playing games. But yeah, I think there must be something going on because it seems to happen a little more often right now. But the end result normally is the person pays, unless they're just trying to buy time and not let you cancel the order on them or something. But.
Yeah, and I mean, that could be it. I mean, it seemed like this person, really wanted the item. I don't even remember what it was now, but I mean, it wasn't some expensive thing or anything like that. I think they were legitimately having an issue, but it's always interesting. Like, I find myself, trying to read into their message more. Like, is there something going on here? But I got to try to get away from that. Like, just let it go. And if 4 days goes by and it isn't paid for, I just cancel and move on with my life. But yeah, and then there was so an interesting thing here as well. I have the first sale where someone is telling me straight up they're using like a freight forwarder or something.
Okay.
Someone went to buy something from Argentina, and one thing I don't like is that even if you have yourself set to only sell to certain areas, they can still buy it. They just then can't check out because you don't ship to those areas, right? So anyway, somebody from Argentina purchased something, and I messaged them right away. I was like, hey, I'm just noticing that you are from Argentina, and I don't have that set up to ship or whatever. So it's going to be expensive. Like just know that. So I could look into it for you if you want, but let me know. And they got back to me and they're like, oh no, actually I use this forwarder in Florida, so you'll see a Florida address come up, but I'll pay, and yeah, it'll be all good. And so anyway, I don't know if I've dealt with that before, but it's the first time that someone's been like, no, don't worry about it, just send it to Florida, it'll get to me. So we'll see. But
Yeah, I've had that before where somebody's tried to talk me into shipping somewhere I didn't want to. And then you see it sell, the same item sells and it goes to like Miami or something like that, right?
yeah,
And that's what's happened. The only good thing there is when it hits whatever the freight forwarder is, that starts the time of them ever opening a case or anything. Because as far as eBay's concerned, they have it at that point, right?
yeah, like you've delivered it to the address of the sale, so you've done your part at that point.
Yeah. I just had just today actually an international sale on Depop, which I currently have a US. My default shipping is in the US. It looks like I'm in Buffalo. I've just started making sales to people in Canada. So like to Toronto, I think 2 to Toronto. But I had somebody yesterday reach out and say, There's this Nike golf polo that had like a bell embroidery on the sleeve that I pulled out of the Goodwill bins. It was new with tags. I think I even might have showed it on my channel. Um, so I'm not into it much money at all, pulling it out of the bins for sure. And they had said, "Hey, would you turn on international shipping? I live in Switzerland." And I'm like, I said, "Well, can you tell me where so I can look it up? Because I don't want to agree to something without at least like looking up a rate."
Hmm.
And he had said it's probably going to be around $30, but yeah, and sent me his information of basically so I could look up where he was, right? Um, I wound up looking on Stallion Express, and it was somewhere between 10 to $20. And it really depends on a bunch of factors, right? Because sometimes somebody might live somewhere where one thing won't deliver if when you get right down to the specifics of it. But it wound up costing me like $7, and I wound up charging him $20 for shipping, and he was okay with that. That was still cheaper than he thought. And I think the company is called like Post NL, which must be like some international freight company of some kind that they use, right? I've used it through them before going other places, but
Hmm.
that was super cheap, still like $7. I honestly don't really intend on refunding the difference. It is like a $12 gain on my behalf. But if there is a problem down the road, and
Yeah.
this guy, I would consider refunding the item, but never the shipping. So I'm going to be $20 ahead no matter what. And it's just because I don't like shipping international. So if I'm doing it for you, it's a pretty big favor for me. So I'm going to write that into like handling, cost of handling, which you can do on eBay as well. You can put in a cost
Yeah.
for a handling fee, right? So I don't think people should be afraid of doing that for sure, especially if you're getting into untested waters and shipping outside of your comfort zone. I don't think there's a problem with charging up because you're not really sure how much it's going to cost in the end.
Exactly. And then, especially like you said, if there is an issue or whatever, I mean, we know that eBay side, this wasn't eBay, but in any case, especially on eBay, we know that they'll side with the customer on just about anything. So, like for me, if I'm sending something international, which I've only done maybe 3 times, I want to make sure that I'm perfectly covered and I've got it spelled out in the messages and everything. Like, okay, you're accepting all of these different criteria here. Like, I don't, and that's the thing about like there's a couple things as you were talking about that kind of came to my mind. Number one, obviously, I don't mind making a couple dollars on the shipping here and there because sometimes, I'm using like I'm never accounting for my, I do calculated shipping, so I'm never worried about my actual materials costs and things like that. Like I recently sent a big bundle out that was like, no, it wasn't big, but it was a heavier package, and I think they paid something like $30 for shipping. Ended up costing me like 18 or something like that. But I had to use a lot of packing materials because it was like it was a little statue thing, like a handmade vintage statue type thing. It was very valuable. Wanted to make sure it was packaged very securely. So I probably used like $6, $7, $8 worth of packing materials. And, of course that's not in what I'm charging for shipping. So yeah, I mean, that's got to be factored in as well. And then the other thing I was thinking about when you were saying about that is I was just watching a Shed Flips video recently where they were talking about how some of the U.S. territories are no longer going to be included in some of the rates or whatever, like the ground advantage or something like that. And it got me thinking, and I actually left a comment on their channel. It's like, it's crazy to me that I can send a pretty light package, like a 1 pound package tracked to Hawaii for $5.50 US. But yet to get something from Maine, which is literally like right next door to me, it would cost me like $20 or $30 through the eBay international shipping program. So,
Yeah.
because that was one of the things they were talking about, the international shipping program that they've got there in the US. And a lot of people were talking about how, really sucks as Canadian buyers to like buy something from the US because the shipping is just astronomical. And, yeah, it just got me thinking about how just it's a weird thing knowing I can send something to Hawaii. Like, what is that? Like 1,000 miles off the coast of Western US? Like, it is I think there's a 6-hour time difference between me and them. And it cost me $5, but it would be like 30 to get something from Maine, which is literally right next door to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense either, right? But yeah, I think I actually watched the same video. Um, Yeah, the other one was, is it Puerto Rico or Peru? Which one is it in the
Yeah,
US?
I think it was Puerto Rico they were talking about. They were talking about Hawaii and Alaska as well.
Yeah.
Even though those are states, they're counting them as like, not part of the continental US, so they're treating them different now in some shipping thing they've got going on with USPS. You'd know more about that. You actually use USPS. I don't, but
Yeah, I do, but I mean it's a little bit different. I actually want to use it more. I haven't followed through on moving that many more of my items from ebay.ca to .com. I
okay.
wanted to, and then I've got caught up in so many other things that it's like it's on the back burner. Um, Plus I'm using crosslist magic. And when I do it, for some reason, it kept throwing an error and I'd have to like close it and reopen it. There was just like some glitchy thing going on that was making it was like you had to do the same thing 3 times to make it work once. And
Oh,
I'm just like, I just need to find a better way when I have more time and revisit this. But yeah, the whole reason why .com, well, one of the reasons why .com would be nice though, especially if I have it set up as a US shipping address, is it would give me access to the global shipping program, right?
right.
Which
Yep.
I feel like when I started on eBay, maybe like casually, like I was on eBay a really, really long time ago, like probably 15 years ago, but just as a buyer, not a seller, right? Like
Yeah.
probably right when it was a new thing. But 5 years ago when I started, I feel like the first year I thought we were part of the global shipping program and then it went
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, I think there was a like the GPS, the global or GSP, the global shipping program thing, and I think that there are parts of the world that still have it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it disappeared for Canada a few years ago, and then they changed it in the U.S. and made it the eBay International Shipping,
Yeah.
and just changed the whole process. I mean, it's just so difficult to want to ship internationally because you just don't have a lot of protections on eBay as a seller when it comes to something like that where the risk is like if it gets to France and the buyer says there's an issue, it's an item not as described or something, I basically have two options: pay another $50 or $60, like the shipping to return that to me, and maybe
Yeah.
it's only a $20 or $30 item, so I'm out automatically there. Really, my only option is just to say, oh, okay, well, I mean, I guess you're right, and just automatically refund them and just take the loss because it would be less expensive to do that than to actually get the item back, right?
Yeah. But I believe through the shipping program though, once it reaches, isn't it, I thought it was once it reaches like the destination where they reship it for you. Isn't it
Yes. Yep.
considered done
Yep.
regardless and they deal with customer service?
Yep. So once U.S. sellers send it to that place, and it actually like that's where their tracking info shows. It goes to one of those hubs. As soon as it gets there, they're done. They're protected. Anything that happens after that point, it's all on eBay. eBay takes care of it, which is great for sellers. I get it, but
For sure. And I assume, obviously, I don't know. I'm just assuming they probably look at the object and say, yeah, this is a pair of shoes. They look fine. There's no,
yeah,
I'm sure they're not going to forward it if they think, you're selling somebody like, a can of beans and it's supposed to be supposed to be shoes, right? Like, but yeah, it's interesting. It's just unfortunate we're not a part of that. But you know,
yeah,
it- that being said, though, like there's plenty of profit here in Canada that we can be made. Like like Poshmark alone, I think you could probably just you could probably make enough money on Poshmark not even to look at the other platforms if you wanted just a simple way to sell things, right? Like I think eBay's so great because you can sell clothing and it's way more diverse. But like I've been talking to a couple of people, like I had somebody over Sunday who's a family friend and she's looking just to get into reselling. She's watched my channel for a bit and I've introduced her to some other people. Um and yeah, and that's what I found myself. Well, when we're talking, I just found myself saying like, yeah, if I was starting right now, I'd probably start on Poshmark and learn how to take good photos. I learned how to deal with customer service. I would learn all the ins and outs before I really had to worry about shipping and all
yeah,
these other things, right? It's just such an easier platform to get going on. And then once you feel confident, like eBay would be a nice thing to add to it, right? But it's just interesting because when I'm trying to give somebody advice, I was like, oh, I'm like, it's interesting how much I'm actually trying to, because I didn't really have an agenda, but like, I'm like, if I was starting, I would definitely go this way because you're going to learn a lot before you actually have to, deal with all the nonsense that happens on eBay.
Yeah, no, that's true. I agree with you. I think Poshmark is a great place to start. And I mean, you're not limited to clothing there. You can sell other things, So, um, I think with Poshmark, just the fact that you get that prepaid shipping label, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about calculated. You don't have to worry about flat rate. You don't have to worry about anything at all. You just slap that label on there as long as your package isn't too heavy, and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about sizing and dimensions as long as, again, your package isn't too heavy.
Yeah.
And I like how Poshmark seems to be a very fair for both seller and buyer kind of platform. I know there's a lot of times where they just kind of cover both parties and say, hey, look, it looks like everyone's kind of done what they should here, and we're just going to cover it and move on. Like they've actually got that built in as part of their business model, which seems like a very reasonable thing to do. They're obviously still making money in those cases. Well, maybe not in those cases, but I mean overall, like they're still doing well. So, yeah, I think it's a great place to start. You're not going to have to worry about. You're not going to have to walk on eggshells on Poshmark.
Yeah, and they're not going to limit you either to like listings when you start, or not that I'm aware of anyway. I think you can go right on Poshmark and just go crazy with listing if you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't think there's any limits.
Yeah. The other thing is it's funny, like I haven't had to set up like a brand new day one account in a long time. So I was helping set up accounts and there was certain things I'm like that, on their account I didn't have access to. I'm like, I don't know how to show you how to set up shipping preferences and returns and stuff. None of that's even visible until you make your first listing. So they force you to make one listing before you can actually go in and set up preferences and all these different things. Because I'm like, oh, because I was second guessing myself. I'm like, maybe you have to have a store to have access to some of this stuff. I didn't think so. So
Oh,
it's weird because I think because we use it every day and we know the ins and outs of how eBay works, when you're starting, there are some hurdles you have to jump through that, I honestly kind of forgot about.
yeah, I don't remember that at all. Like, it's only been a couple of years for me, and I definitely don't remember that. Like, um, wow, that's strange. But yeah, I mean, it's just another example of how easy it is. Like, I kind of think of Poshmark as like just a plug and play kind of system. Like, you get one of those little Atari flashbacks that has 50 games built in. You plug it into your HDMI, you turn it on, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about all the stuff. It's just all right there, ready to go. What do you want to do? Here's your options. And eBay's like, yeah, just a very different experience.
Yeah, it is. Even on when you're listing on eBay, you can put the same item in multiple categories, and it probably would make a difference on how well it sells too, right? Like if you put it in the wrong category, it might get buried and no one might ever find it. So
Yeah.
where like Poshmark's not like that. It's a men's t-shirt. It's an
Mm-hmm.
actual t-shirt. You're picking these things. There are options if you want to go a little further, but it's way more straightforward for sure.
Yeah. On eBay, if I put jerseys or golf polos or things like that under like I forget what the actual category is called, but if you put it in under like sportswear, like sports clothing or athletic clothing, or in that category,
Yeah.
it takes forever to sell. Doesn't matter how good it is. But
Yeah.
if I just put that in men's shirts, and the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure that there's even a drop down, like one of the item specifics that says jersey, in just regular men's shirts category. So it's like it's just weird that there's a lot of overlap there. So yeah, I mean, I could put the same jersey. Actually, I should test this out sometime and like do almost like duplicate listing, but just put the same item in two different categories and see how it performs. But I know I've had way better. Like sometimes I'll look at some of my old listings and be like, oh crap, I got that in this, and then I just change it over to men's shirt, polo, maybe it's like a FootJoy golf polo or something, and just put it in there, and it sells within a week.
Yeah. The one time with jerseys, that I'll put it in. So normally I just kind of put it in within regular clothing. But if
Yeah.
it's like a vintage jersey that's maybe like ratty and you might wear it, but it's more to have this old jersey. I'll put in sports collectibles, and it seems to do better there for better money because the person buying it probably is going to display it more than they want to wear it. And the
Right.
condition at that point isn't quite, it's still important. You want to point out the flaws and show all that stuff, but you're almost selling it because it's a vintage, rare, collectible thing as opposed to something you're going to wear.
Yeah, and I mean that's going to add value because it might lower the amount of people who want it, but it's going to increase what they're willing to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes
sure.
sense.
Yeah. So did you have a particular sale of the week this week on any platform?
Yeah, so I had mentioned about that bronze statue. So this was a cool one. I've got a local charity shop that occasionally does online auctions, like just on Facebook or whatever. And I saw this thing. I was like, man, this looks pretty cool. I should check this out and kind of do a little bit of research. And obviously, with like vintage, like bronze statues or like kind of handmade stuff, you're not going to get exact comps on things because they're very, it's very small run or one of a kind or things like that. But this was this was made in Greece. It was bronze on marble, and it was like a 14-inch statue of Achilles holding like a spear and stuff like that. The old soldier, and yeah, it was pretty cool. I ended up paying up for it. I think I paid like $30 for it on this auction, probably sometime around like November of last year. So it did take a little while to sell, but I got $115 for it. So I had it listed for like $150. It had a couple of watchers for a while. Someone offered me $115. I'm not going to counter that. Like, I'm just going to take it. It ended up being, and this is one that I did make a couple dollars on the shipping from. So I think I ended up profiting something like $75-$80 on this thing, and it was just a cool item.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, I remember you showing me the photo of that. I'm like, that thing. How old do you think it was again?
I think from what I could tell from the Maker's Mark and similar ones that looked around that same type of base, I think it was probably 70s.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I don't think I put that in my title, but I think I put in the description a little blurb about like, hey, based upon what I could find, I believe this is from the 70s. I can't guarantee that. I have no, certificate of authenticity or anything, but.
And it probably had some pretty good weight to it, I assume, too.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was a 14-inch statue, but I mean, it was a marble base, so I mean, it was pretty hefty. I think with all the packing materials and stuff like that, and in the box, it wasn't a huge package, but I mean, it was like 3.5 kilograms. What's that? Like 8 pounds, 9 pounds, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, right in there. Yeah.
Pounds. I mean, so that's a decent weight for really, something that wasn't a whole lot bigger than, like maybe stood that tall or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had something that I brought home from. So we're gonna go old school here. This is gonna be a local.
Okay.
Sale. So I brought home these lamps from my antique booth. Right, there are these great big they're about 3.5 feet, right between their egg-shaped lamps. They are very heavy, and I thought they were unique. Did I think they looked nice? I don't think they look nice, but I would say they look unique. The right person would really like them. But I thought in an antique booth, okay, I thought they were worth a bit more money. I messaged my buddy Scott, who's got multiple antique booths. I thought maybe they were going to be $100. He's like, like 60 would probably be a lot. So I posted them for 60, and I think that was the right price still. When I'm walking around looking at other people's stuff, I'm like, okay. But they took up a lot of real estate. They were sitting up high, and they sat there since day one. And I wanted the space back. It's not that I thought they looked good there, but I mean, I'm not really putting stuff there to look good. I'm putting stuff there to sell.
Yeah.
I took them home, took a couple quick pictures on Facebook Marketplace, had interest within the first hour, had commitment to buy within the next hour from somebody. The only issue was they're in London, Ontario. And I'm like, well, good news. I come to London twice a week. So we set up a date. I dropped them off at their house. They were listed for $60. I posted them on Facebook Marketplace for $60, and they sold there really quick. Now that it's so funny because like, I don't know if there was no interest in them there or in at the antique booth, or I had them listed too high, or it really needs the right person to buy
Mm,
something anyway. That's the one thing with the antique booth that I can't figure out is, it's a smaller audience, obviously, but you list something online, so many people see it so quick that would be interested, things will sell quick, right?
yeah. And
So I
people
don't,
might even have like saved searches and things so that when things like that come up, they automatically get a notification like egg-shaped lamp just was posted in your area or something, and they can be like, oh crap, I've been looking for that. So you've got that benefit as well. You've got some of that automation that can be built in even on, basic platforms like Facebook Marketplace.
yeah. I mean, I think I listed it as like mid-century egg lamp, something, something. Tried to use as many keywords that I could spam in there that would get somebody looking for a unique item like that. So that's the only thing. That's so like I'm still really loving the antique booth. I'm just not sure yet how to find those items that are that'll sell quick, or maybe things just don't sell quick in an antique booth. I'm not really sure. The only things that I find that sell quickly are things that you put in there very cheap, just that kind of roll over quickly, right? But that aren't
Yeah.
worth a lot of money. They're just somebody's going to pick it up and take it home because they think it's cool, and it's $4 or $5. But yeah,
Right.
so anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting. It was like, I think what else? What I think last week was the same deal. I think I had the TV that I talked about last week. I took home from the
Right.
sold in a week and a half. So it's not. That's the thing that's frustrating, right? It's like I feel like the items there are good. It's just maybe
Mm.
it's probably I'm impatient because I'm used to how big of a audience there is online, right? It's probably
Yeah,
me problem, but
yeah, you're spoiled now.
yeah,
We're spoiled. We're spoiled eBay sellers. Um, but no, I mean it's a valid point. Like, you've got a little bit of foot traffic at a place like that, and is that right buyer going to be there? It's so hard to say. Like there are times that I go out and I'm going to like these types of things, antique booths, flea markets, yard sales, or whatever. I can be out all day and walk away with nothing and just be like, that sucked. I hate doing that. I never want to do that again. And then the next weekend I could go out again, and within 10 minutes I've got my back seat completely filled with amazing stuff.
yeah,
Maybe not amazing stuff for other people, but for me, it's perfect. It's exactly what I'm looking for. It's a mix of things for myself personally to keep that I got at a good price. It's stuff I might resell. Like you just never know. It's a complete crapshoot.
yeah. I think so. I think my hope too is with that type of sale or that type of brick and mortar setup. I think you kind of hope to find what people want, and then you
Mm.
can kinda recycle those type of things, right? But it's not always the easiest thing to do either.
No, and actually, it might be good. There might be times where I was just thinking, maybe you don't have exactly what someone's looking for, but maybe someone's like, hey, uh, if you ever come across something like this, could you let me know? Or do you have something like this at home or whatever else? And maybe you're just making kind of connections and networking a little bit. And maybe you're trading some knowledge back and forth with other people, or maybe they end up finding something that isn't really part of their business model. But hey, Jamie, would you be interested in selling these things? I could make a deal for you. Like even just the networking might, help pay off, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely. Did you happen to see? You probably haven't seen the last video I put out was just last night or yesterday. But did you happen to see that I got my shed?
I didn't. I didn't get a chance to watch that. I was pretty busy yesterday, so I've got a backlog of videos to watch. I
Oh
always
yeah,
add them to watch later, and then I
yeah,
create a
yeah.
play, and then I try to watch them before I fall asleep the next day. So I'm gonna try to get to it. But I did see that you uploaded it. Yeah. So how big of a shed was it again? I forget.
It's 12 by 20.
Nice.
Um, the end completely is a roll up door, so it's a garage door on the end, a roll up.
Yeah.
It's a man door on the side. Um, and then it's got a loft. So it's got a loft on both ends. So you have some storage overhead, which the one side my wife's already like, oh, I know what I'm gonna put up there. She
Yeah.
wants like some Christmas stuff on the like short stubby side of it.
Mm.
Yeah, but like today I went and grabbed some insulation. So I'm gonna do some insulation in there and plastic, do something with the walls. My big thing was I wasn't sure if I wanted to run hydro there or not.
Yeah.
I wound up buying this lithium power brick that's sort of like if you're gonna do like van life and make like yourself like or You can use it for an RV too, but it's sort of meant for that type of thing. You can run it off of solar. I think it'll run, if I just put lights out there, it'd run lights, it says, for about 48 hours without
Okay.
charging the battery. So like, like for me, I think that's all I really need it for. I
Yeah,
don't,
lights,
I don't,
plug in your phone while you're out there if it's starting to go dead a little bit. It's
yeah,
little stuff. Yeah.
yeah. I'll probably work out of there a little bit, but I don't really, it's not big enough to consider it to be like, Shed
Mm.
Flips Canada or something like that. Right.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but, uh, but yeah, I think it'll be really good. It should help a lot. Like I've been living for I think I've mentioned this a few times. I've been living for the last few months like I already own a shed.
Mm.
Stuff everywhere, and I've just liked my space back for sure. So it'll be
Yeah.
nice to think that way. But yeah, so like I know you have a storage unit, right? It's just down the road. So
I do. Yeah. I've got a good sized storage unit. I think it is 11 and a half by 15 or 11 and a half by 18. I can't remember
yeah,
what, but it's a good size room for sure. It's actually inside like an old church that was purchased and then just converted into storage spaces. So, it's a nice private building that I can get in 24 hours a day, which is nice. It's
yeah,
not heated. There's no power or anything like that, but I mean, it's fine. Um, but then I do also actually I've got a building outside my house, and that's where it kind of started out when I first moved here. Until I got my storage unit, I had a whole bunch of stuff down here in my basement in my office, like bags and totes and stuff, and then I had all kinds of totes and stuff out of my building out there, which also had everything else, like. So in the wintertime, all the lawn furniture and the lawnmower and a bicycle and just all of the tools and everything else, and then like 20 totes of stuff. It's just it was nice to get my building back, but I do have lights out there, but I don't have power actually connected to it. Like it's not actually hooked up, but I've just got an extension cord running from the outside of my house through this small little hole that was drilled into the side of the building. So I do have a light set up in there and a light switch, which is cool. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to go out there and work and stuff. It's not insulated. It's pretty hot in there in the summertime and pretty cold in there in the wintertime.
yeah.
And it seems like the wasps like getting up in the eaves and stuff too. But it's nice to have that space at least for all my personal junk.
Yeah. But I know you'd said before, even with the, would you say like 11 by 18 storage unit, you'd already like more space, right?
I mean, yeah, I could use more. Right now I'm pretty good, and I'm probably like, if I was thinking what max capacity looks like in that space, I'm probably at like 2/3.
Okay.
But that would be like very really well organized, very tightly packed, cataloged, organized space. Um, Ideally, I have a little bit more room to work around and move around and not have to, be quite so organized. I can actually have something just kind of standing in the middle of the room or something, which would be fine. Yeah, I mean, the one good thing is that the unit is very cheap. I have another small one that's only like 5 by 11 that was the first one I started with. And then I told the guy, I was like, hey, if another one ever comes up, let me know, like a bigger one, because I would definitely want to use it. So now I have both of them, and it's very, very cheap. Like I say, it's an older guy who's just owned this property for a very long time. So obviously he's not paying a mortgage on this. Yeah, I've already told him if another big one comes up, like let me know. I'll take it. And I would double my space, and even if I wasn't using it right away, it would be cheap enough to be worth just having it.
Yeah. So there must be hydro in the building if it was an old church, just the units you have. Are there ones?
Yeah. Well, there's overhead lights. There are light switches, so there is overhead lights, but I'm pretty sure that there are no like outlets or anything that I can plug anything in anywhere. So
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's not the point of what you want to use it for. I was just kind of curious.
yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, what I've done, because it is overhead lights, but it's kind of higher ceilings, and the lights aren't all that bright, is I've actually gone to the dollar store and just gotten some of those battery operated lights that just stick on, and they've got their own little remote. So when I walk in, I've got one of the remotes just inside the door. I just press that like a light switch, and the whole room just lights right up. So, $10 worth of dollar store lights and the occasional battery change, and I'm good to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this space will do me for quite a while, because I'll still be using the space I'm in now. I can't really envision taking like jerseys. Like I think anything like that I just leave out in the open, I don't think I would just want it out in any kind of element whatsoever.
Yeah.
Any clothing in bins, that's fine. Most goods, like I don't know. I'm not really sure how I'm going to utilize that space, but I feel like it'll be a lot more unlisted stuff out there than listed.
Mm.
But I guess just having that as an option is nice. Like I'm still like, you can't, like, beside me, this entire desk is just all full of these comic books still, because I've like had so many things go on recently. I haven't really got a chance to go through the rest of them. The other day I did go through some more and found another one that, if it's graded decent, is worth a couple $100. So there's still money here. It's just so much time.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about comic books either in general. Like, I kind of understand maybe what makes one valuable over the other, but it's like, at the same time, every once in a while you'll find one, and it's like, I don't even understand why this one is worth anything. And then
Right.
this next one, to me, visually looks a lot cooler, and it's worth $1.
Yeah. No, I know literally nothing about any of them. I've sold a couple comic books for a buddy of mine who just asked me to put them up on eBay for him, and some of the prices he's got for a couple of them are just like, wow, why is this worth more than a quarter? But someone's paying you $80 for it. Like, and then other ones, this is like really cool old Felix the Cat, like an early edition, and I'm like, oh, that's got to be worth something, and it's like borderline not even worth putting it on eBay. It's like, wow. So
Yeah.
my comic radar is way off. Like, I just have no idea.
Yeah, it's surprising to me. It's like, I used to really like sports cards. I never really like tried to sell them or anything, but I like to collect them and whatever. It feels almost like that. It's just like, there's just like the odd one that's super valuable, and it could be for so many reasons. Like, first edition of a certain character can really be a big thing, or somebody dies, or
Mm-hmm.
not always the first issue, but maybe the first, like I said, first issue that maybe has the appearance of somebody that's new. Like, those
Right.
ones seem to be the ones that are more valuable. But yeah, like I said, I've just been kind of working through in my downtime when I don't have anything to do. Like yesterday, when I went through some, I had the baseball game on, which was a heartbreaker. The Jays, it was a miserable game to watch.
Good job, Kirk.
Yeah,
Anyways.
I know. Uh, but yeah, so I'm just going through those while I've got the baseball game on, and that's sort of how I've been treating it, just sort of as, if I'm a secondary thing to do, if I need something to do, right?
Yeah. Actually, I'm glad you brought up the baseball, because I've been watching a lot more baseball this year, especially since I got into softball, and I've been watching all the Jays games and stuff. Like, I just record it, like I just TiVo it and then watch it as I'm doing things. And I've really enjoyed doing more listing and stuff while watching baseball. Like, man, it's just made it so much easier for me. It's been almost this like meditative thing where I'm not worried as much about like how much I'm getting listed or as quickly, because I'm taking that time for myself, sitting down, watching the ball game. And maybe I'm listing my 5 items, but maybe I'm taking a little bit more time to like throw in an extra couple of item specifics, or do a little bit more research and squeeze a couple more dollars out of something. I don't know, but it's weird. So my whole like reselling and baseball watching lives have just kind of merged so much over this last month, and it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I love about baseball is what I hear a lot of people say they don't like about it. There's a lot of games. Like, there's a lot of games. Like more than half of the year there's baseball on.
Yep.
I like that because there's always something on in the background. I don't, like, much like you, I probably don't pay attention to the entire game, but I can listen, and then you kind of know when to pay attention to the big spots. And then, it's to me, it feels a lot similar to like when I get into like listening to podcasts and stuff, right?
Mm.
same thing. You kind of learn things about the people who are there, and the commentators kind of tell the same little stories and have their little inside jokes, and it's just fun. For me, it's a good time filler, and it's something I've enjoyed for for a really long time.
Yeah, I've had to make a couple of long drives in the last few days, and that's what I do. Like, I mean, I can listen to music and stuff while I'm driving along, but man, nothing makes an hour and a half to 2 hour drive better for me than just putting a podcast on and listening along. And so what I've been listening to lately, we'll just plug someone else's podcast, even though we're here doing our own thing. I loved The Office. Like, I watched The Office a bunch of times. I love it. I think it's just hilarious. And I love listening to The Office Ladies, which is Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey, obviously Pam and Angela from the show. And they're just doing their whole rewatch podcast. I'm still like way behind on it. I think I'm still on season 3 or something like that of them talking about it. But I just put an episode of that on, and it just kind of takes me away. I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, you're listening to Rainn Wilson go on about one of his crazy metaphysical things he's talking about, and you're like, wait, this guy was Dwight? Like, how was this guy Dwight? But it's just, no, it's cool. You get that little bit of an extra perspective on these humans that created this thing, but are just so much more than that. So it's a good way to kill some time.
Yeah, I just heard yesterday or the day before they're doing a reboot of The Office, but I think with different characters, maybe.
Yeah, I think I just saw something with Steve Carell on one of the late night shows. Might have been Jimmy Fallon, I'm not sure, but it was just a little short or a little reel that popped up on my feed, and I think he was saying, I forget who he even said it was, but definitely not someone who was involved in the original series at all. But yeah, it's going to be some kind of a spin-off. Not really sure where they go with it from here or what they do, but I mean, hey, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, me too. I really loved it. I know I've tried to get my wife interested in it, and she's like, she can't get past the first season, and I'm like, you got to get past the first season because it's ridiculous, right? I mean, I still think it holds up, but I mean, I also when it was relevant, I was still watching it, right? So maybe it's partly like that as well. But
yeah. Hey, one thing that popped in my head while you were talking about your TV that you sold last week. I thought I'd mention. So I took a quick little stop in a Value Village and did a really quick browse, and I found one of the cooler electronics I've seen in a long time. But I was thinking about, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh crap, how am I going to ship this? Because I was thinking of you and your TV, and I assume it all worked out okay and you packed it well and everything's good. But I hate these heavier, bigger pack jobs, even though I sell like Wii bundles and stuff, the Wii Fit board. But I found an RCA VHS, like VCR and DVD recorder combo.
Oh, nice.
And surprisingly, they didn't have it marked up like to a crazy price. It was $12.99. And it's one that when I looked it up, it's at least 10 have sold in the last 90 days. And it's got the remote and everything. And the sold comps are looking like 140, 150 bucks. So it was a good score. But it was funny because as you mentioned that, I was like, okay, I got to remember to mention that DVD VCR combo. And but now I don't know how I'm going to ship it. It's heavy, man. It's heavy. I always forget how heavy like this old tech is, because we've got tiny little light TVs nowadays that are like, you can pick them up with 2 fingers. Like my 50-inch TV, I can pick up with 1 hand and never think, oh, that's not safe. But yet you wanted to play a VCR or a VHS back in the day, and you got to get like 2 guys to carry it in. It's crazy.
It's probably rare with the remote. People don't seem to have the remotes kicking around for those, so that's cool. What I would do if it's one that's like an odd size, I would measure it, and then I would start just looking for a box that was about maybe 2 inches too long, 2 inches too wide. You can always cut down the depth, right? That's not such a big deal. I would start looking for it like I already sold it, and that way when you do sell it, you won't have to scramble, because that is the hard thing. Sometimes I've got a couple of boxes that when I pick up a typical just VHS player, I know the box that I want to use. The combos really vary, because sometimes they're really long, sometimes they're really wide. They're not just as cookie cutter as your basic plastic VCR was. But yeah.
Still, This
No.
one's pretty long. I think I'm probably going to have to, I mean, it's probably almost 2 feet long, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, I'll probably end up getting like a, I'll either have to get like some weird rectangular box. My post office might be able to help me out with that though. They hook me up because they get all kinds of crazy weird boxes in, and they've saved some for me before. So I might see what they can do for me. But if I have to Frankenstein a couple boxes together, I'll do that too. I mean, with that quarterly coupon from eBay, I always buy the tape, or I usually buy the tape. So now I've got so much damn tape left. Like, if I need to Frankenstein 2 boxes together and use like almost half a roll of tape so that it holds well, I'll do it. Doesn't matter. I got lots to spare now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that a few amount of times. But I think you should be able to find it. I know people kind of get overboard with how much they'll pack it. I don't know typically what you would do. I would wrap the entire thing in bubble wrap, and then I would mostly just make sure that around the edges for a VCR that there's enough packing paper to give it like a little bit of a buffer. Because
Yeah.
honestly, like, and then obviously on top and the bottom, honestly, if somebody was going to throw that off of like the back of a truck and hit the ground, no matter what you do, it ain't going to survive. Like, you got to hope that somebody treats it reasonable.
Yeah.
Um, pack it to the best of your ability. But like, there's no point of going overkill and putting it in like a box with like three, you know what I mean, like 3 inches or sorry, like a foot deep.
Yeah.
I think that's almost crazy too, because then you're just paying way too much to ship.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if it arrives damaged like that, someone throws it off a off a truck or something. I mean, at least you're going to be able to make a claim. It might take a while to get your money back or something, but at least you're going to be able to make a claim with the post office or something. But
Yeah. Surprising too with the TVs. I've never had any that showed up with like a broken screen or have been dropped, because those things are like little bricks for sure. They're heavy.
yeah,
You pack them the best that you possibly can. I usually get like a, packed well type thing for like the feedback. But yeah, those things, if somebody actually dropped one of those too, like, it'd be game over almost no matter how you packed it, I would think.
yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like videos like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing for more content. And we will see you very soon.